Hello everyone and welcome to another Dwarven Tavern video. This time, this is not a review, but it's a response to a question that I've been getting a lot, actually. And while it might seem incredulous that there are newbies to the game, there are. And people start playing every day, which is incredibly cool. But the question that I often get is, what do I need to start? And the glory of tabletop games, as you who already play already know, is that you really don't need much. You need some paper. You need some pencils, not pens, but pencils, because we all know what it's like to write down your hit points in ink, right? I mean, it would be nice if you could do that, but so you got pencils, you got paper, lots of dice, like the Bombard here. That's one Bombard of dice. Which is fine. I have dice within reach just about everywhere here. So you need lots and lots of dice, and including something like this guy, the uncheatable, undeniable situation die. And I've explained this in videos early on that this was actually my first D20. Okay, this is the first D20 I ever owned, and I thought I had lost it, but I found it somewhere, packed away somewhere, and I put it in here. So this die, if it's an all or nothing situation, where the die means to live or to die, to succeed or to fail in that most important of whatever, right? And this is for monsters. You know, if the monster hits you, you're going to die. If you know, this is it. This is the end all be all of your career as an adventurer for that character. And so some people opt to use the situation die. I had a friend who was playing, and he put everything he had into this one psionic teleportation that he was going to do, and with the thing that he was escaping, he was it was actually in a tropal from the epic level handbook in 3.5. It was in a tropal that had been unwillingly cursed to exist as an old Spanish type galleon, and it was trying to get him for whatever reason. Didn't like him, and it had kidnapped his wife, and so in order to, and he was of epic levels, but he couldn't fight it. He couldn't kill it, because, you know, first thing about an atropal is when you get within 30 feet of it, you lose 10 levels, and that hurt him a lot, and so forth and so on. And it's regeneration, you know, and fast healing, and blah blah blah. The list goes on. The thing was freaking impossible for him to fight. So the only thing he could do is find her within its bowels, and I mean that. He had to find her, and then he had to use all of his, you know, his psionic points, because this was using first edition psionic rules, which you can actually apply to any, because it's class independent. So you can play first edition psionics with any game, which I think is cool. I like the first edition psionics. Many don't, many do. You decide. So he wanted to expend all of his points and overcome its spell resistance and its everything that it had blocking him from doing anything. to get him and her out in one burst of, could possibly kill him psionics. So he did, and first I made him roll, a willpower DC of huge, just to be able to spend all of his points. Then he had to roll a saving throw, fortitude save of huge to survive it, which he did. And then with all that together, with all of his survival and everything in place, he still needed to roll a natural 20 to overcome its spell resistance and blah blah blah. So he grabbed the situation die. And I'm like, dude, you know that this is rolled, it's rolled out on a table where everybody can see it, and what it says goes. There's no fudging the dice, there's no, re-rolling, which, I allow re-rolls for things that, aren't very important, or it helps the story or whatever, so, I'm a fudger at some points. So, so he took situation die, he shook it, and rolled it, and got a 20. I got an 8. And he actually got a 20. He needed a 20. So he went and got out of the creature's belly, the belly of the beast, as it were, and survived. He died later in an avalanche. But the thing was, something like this, little things like this, are very cool to have. The amount of equipment that you need to play tabletop role-playing games is really minimal. It's really cheap. The books themselves, like the one I just reviewed, the Bestiary 5 from Pathfinder, is $44. The whole core rules can cost like $150. You have them forever. You don't ever have to, I still have my first edition player's handbook. You have them. As long as nothing destroys them, you will have them. So that investment is minimal, relatively speaking. So you get the core rules, the monster manual, player's handbook, dungeon master's guide. If it's D&D, if it's some other role-playing game, then you get the core rules for that game, and you're done, right? So you get that. That's all you need. That's all you need to start. And then the question became from this viewer, and you know who you are. I'm an MMO player. How do I transition from MMOs to RPGs? Well, there are some MMOs that are RPGs, but that brought me up to that made something snap in my mind, because I've had this a lot. Right now, I'm playing with a group of gentlemen on in a gaming group, who one of them in very particular is a self-proclaimed MMO master, and he came into the game as if he knew what it was to play RPGs. I was like, well, you play MMO RPGs, and that's not the same. It is not the same. Because, and here's the point, the MMO is a programmed nuts and bolts kind of game. It is thrilling, it is exciting, it is challenging, but in an entirely different way. Number one, you've got the visuals, you've got the audio. Hopefully it's good. The graphics are awesome, and the sound can make or break a game. So you've got that in place, so you don't need your imagination for that. Then it's all very rapid fire. You get into combat. Some of them are rapid fire, some of them are not. Of course, this is just general discussion of MMOs. So some of them are rapid fire, where it's very challenging, or WASD. They're very challenging to defeat the monsters, but some of them are like, okay, it's your turn. Okay, you hit for 35. It's my turn. I hit for 43. Okay, it's your turn. And then, you're like, oh, I win. And then you go to the town healer or whatever, and you buy your potion of healing, and you drink it, and you go back out. Well, okay, role-playing games, tabletop role-playing games, are not that at all. There are no formulae, whatever, that you have to go by, because you've got a dungeon master who is every bit a human, maybe not humane, but certainly human, and this human being has an imagination, and this imagination can go anywhere. It can go anywhere. The dungeon master can be a jerk. The dungeon master can be not very good. Dungeon master can be a horrible overkill, or incredibly overly generous, or give way too many experience points, or not enough. I mean, there is no balance. There is no mechanically separated chicken, as it were. There's no formula other than the descriptions of things in the books, and general guidelines that the dungeon master has to go by, or doesn't even have to go by. The dungeon master can do anything he or she wants to do, and that takes that with an MMO, there's no mystery. There might be a little suspense. No, not really. There might be some suspense. There's the mystery. It's just everything is so sterile, and it's so it's sterile. It's incredibly predictable, because they have a formula that they go by with the boss fights, and everything has been reduced to terminology that I absolutely detest, like AOE for area of effect, and DOT for damage over time, and everything has been reduced to these terms, instead of having an acid arrow that hits the character, and the shaft is really a vial of acid or whatever, which it would have to be magical. Or somehow injects the thing with acid, and the acid burns a crevice in the whatever. Maybe it loses a limb, whatever. It's very painful. The smells of the acid burning the flesh, and the screams and everything. It's just horrific. Whereas in an MMO, or in MMO terms, it's like, okay, you hit him with a 15-point acid arrow. It does 3 points of damage per round. AOE or DOT 3 points for 6 rounds. Okay, let's move on. And it's like, okay, well that is of dire uninterest to me. Because it's all about the imagination. MMOs, no imagination is needed to play. You got to have electricity and some sort of a console or a PC. That's it. Whereas with an actual RPG, the imagination is the one thing that you have to have in great abundance. You have to have some paper, a pencil, as many dice as you can afford, because they're just cool. They're fun. And the core rule books, which in most situations there are 3, but in some situations there's only 1 or 2, sometimes only 1. So you get the book, you get the pencil and the paper, and then the greatest requirement is all of your imagination and the wonderment of a child, if you can bring that too. And I'm not talking about going out and getting a kid and bringing it and go, wonder. No, I'm saying that you have to get yourself into your own psyche and into your own imagination, and imagine what those mountains look like, and imagine how horrifying that thing coming through the forest is. A lot of that depends on the dungeon master descriptive abilities. but it's all very much a game played in the console up here. And that's what's important to bring, because if you don't bring that, if you come in and treat it like an MMO, if you come in treating it like an MMO, then it's going to remain like an MMO with sterile terminology and it's just freaking boring. The MMO player in a game is so boring because he doesn't need an imagination, and he's saying, you know, like, okay, how much do I heal? Okay, well, I put on another heal pack. It's like, how do you and you know, and it's like, instead of embracing the fantasy of it, and I'm almost kind of sounding like some kind of a preacher here, but instead of embracing the fantasy and romanticizing the story, he's just breaking it down into the coldest possible sterile terminology to achieve the desired effect and accumulate gold, which is like, who cares, really? I mean, of course, you know, your adventurer wants gold if that's what your adventurer is doing with its life, with his or her life. But you know, when the story is grand, the gold is just like real life. When the story is an adventure, the riches come second. And on that, I'm going to wish you all a pleasant dew. I swear, Dr. Jeff Goins with the Dwarven Tavern, and on behalf of the entire cast and crew of the Dwarven Tavern, I wish for you to want for nothing but adventure. And at first I feared it, then I charged. Cheers. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.